A medical emergency can occur at any time during an incident. It is advisable to know who to contact in the event of a medical or traumatic medical situation that requires medical evaluation. All incident personnel should be briefed on where to send an injured worker for treatment and/or emergency medical services. Please check the incident for the appropriate point of contact, hospital liaison, and/or a compensation claims unit leader, referred to as a COMP. All private contractors doing work on wildland fires, regardless of type of agreement, virtual incident procurement, or VIPER, or emergency equipment rental agreement, EERA, etc., must have their own workers' compensation insurance. The employer is responsible to make sure that their employees have that information. Incident personnel can assist the injured contractor by calling and notifying the vendor, but incident personnel are not responsible for filling out the paperwork for private contractors. Do not issue any federal forms for private contractors for medical care. All state and municipality workers' compensation programs differ from one state to another. Some offer online forms, some are single-page documents, and some are multi-pages long. It is advisable to reach out to state partners pre-season for emergency needs and requirements. Incident personnel can assist state employees in obtaining their own home state workers' compensation forms, but all state employees or municipality employees must have their own workers' compensation information with them. If state forms are not available, the employee may use CA1 or CA2 to initially record the necessary information. Federal references should be crossed out and the state name written at the top of the form. The state employee is responsible to contact the home unit or obtain the proper reporting forms. Do not issue any federal forms to state employees or state cooperators for medical care. All federal employees can refer to the U.S. Department of Labor website or Office of Workers' Compensation Program forms. The CA1 form is used for injuries. Before 2023, this form was used for employees that tested positive for COVID, but the form is no longer used for that purpose. The employee must fill out page 1. If there are any witnesses to the injury, the witness should fill out the lower section of page 1 in the witness statement section. Page 2 should be filled out by the employee's supervisor. Use the CA1 form in the following situations: traumatic injury of a federal employee or federal casual employee, an injury that has occurred within one shift or can be identified to one date or time, any injury that goes or has the potential to go beyond first aid. A few examples of traumatic injuries are bee stings with reaction, any joint injury, exposure to poison oak or poison ivy, back strain over one shift, smoke inhalation over one shift, and tick bites. Who handles what? The front side of the form should be completed by the employee or the employee's representative if the employee is incapacitated. The home unit supervisor of the employee completes the second page and submits the form to the Office of Workers' Compensation Program, OWCP, within 10 days of receiving the form. For an administratively determined employee, also known as AD, or casual employee, the hiring official should complete and submit the form. The form must be submitted within 30 days of injury to be eligible for continuation of pay. It is advisable to submit documentation within 48 hours. Tips for completing the CA1 form. All fields and information must be complete. Make sure to exclude jargon and acronyms. We have a common language in fire that may not be understood by people outside of our field. Box 9. Place where injury occurred. Be specific to location on the written form. In the electronic version, there may be limitations on location. Select what represents the closest location. Box 13. Cause of injury. Be very specific as to worksite description, how the injury occurred, and other important information that is necessary for a person to easily understand what you were doing and where the work was occurring. Here's an example of complete language to fill into box 9 and 13. While I was working as part of a firefighting crew on the Panther Fire in Statesburg, Oregon, we were assigned to Division D to place a hand line from Rattle Ridge to the Kern Creek drainage. As I progressed in the line construction with my crew, we started into a section that had very loose and rocky materials on a steep hillside, which made walking difficult. At one point, I took a step and slid, which caused me to start into an uncontrolled fall down the hillside. Before I could stop myself from sliding, my right hand struck something hard. I felt something in my hand snap and immediately felt severe pain from that area. When I finally regained my footing and stopped falling, I noticed a very large mark on the back of my right hand. I also realized I couldn't move the fingers on that hand without excruciating pain. Box 14, Nature of Injury. Describe the exact area of injury and any impacts it's having on your body. Avoid using medical diagnosis words such as dislocated knee, heat stroke, or concussion. Instead, use medical terms that describe symptoms. For example, limited mobility of the knee, swelling or pain in specific areas of the body. Box 15, Continuation of pay or sick annual leave. The employee needs to select and sign for how they want to move forward if there will be lost time with this incident. The statement section on page 2 should be filled out by the employee's supervisor. Also, the receipt of notice of injury on page 4 should be certified by the supervisor, indicating that they have received this notification. Form CA-16, Authorization for Examination and/or Treatment. This form needs to be sent to the medical facility within 48 hours, must be completed within 7 days, and is completed by medical staff and signed by a medical doctor, MD. Page 1 may only be completed by a comp, finance section chief, or other authorized agency official. Page 2, also known as Part B, Attending Physician's Report, should be completed by a medical doctor. However, an appropriate narrative report or summary may be included, containing the information that is received from the attending physician. The CA-16 is valid for up to 60 days from date of issuance and covers referrals to specialists, diagnostic testing, etc. Do not issue a new authorization for change in physicians. Form CA-17, Duty Status Report, is used for traumatic injuries that disable an employee from returning to work. The left side of the form is completed by the employer's supervisor, and the right side of the form is completed by medical staff and signed by a medical doctor. For Forest Service employees, all documents should be uploaded into eSafety. For Department of Interior employees, all documents should be uploaded into SMIS and eComp. All original documents should be retained by the injured employee. However, hospital staff may request copies that can be added to the employee's record. Incident personnel should never retain copies of medical documentation, and any copies that are briefly retained for informational purposes should be shredded before leaving the incident. Local hospitals may ask a federal employee to fill out state workers' compensation documents. However, these documents are not required for federal employees. There are additional forms that could be utilized but not covered in detail in this video. They are Form CA-2, used for occupational disease or illness. Occupational diseases are conditions or disorders that result from the nature of your work. Some examples include smoke inhalation, COVID-19 exposure, and hearing loss. Form CA-20, Attending Physician's Report. This form is completed by the attending physician and signed by a medical doctor, MD. Do not complete a CA-16 or CA-17 form for occupational disease or illness cases. All these documents should be retained by the injured employee. However, hospital staff may request copies that can be added to the employee's records. When a federal employee is injured at work, the employee should report the injury as soon as possible. Before medical treatment, obtain authorization of treatment from the authorized agency official, comp unit leader, or finance section chief. Authorization is given by signing the CA-16 on the first page in box 8 as the authorizing official. Take the form when you seek medical treatment from a physician or hospital. Emergency medical treatment may be obtained without prior authorization. Supervisors may obtain a CA-16 in electronic format after completing the CA-1 via eSafety or eComp. The employee will need to report the injury incident in either eSafety or SMIS. Forest Service employees and casuals use eSafety, and Department of Interior employees and casuals use SMIS. Department of Interior employees must also open a file in eComp for a workers' compensation claim. Forest Service claims from eSafety are automatically submitted to eComp. eComp is a platform managed by Department of Labor, Office of Workers' Compensation Program. For traumatic injuries, file the CA-1 within 30 days to be eligible for continuation of pay. You may upload any supporting documentation for your claim, such as statements, medical reports, and the CA-16. Once you've completed the form, the system will ask you if you want to claim continuation of pay or sick and/or annual leave for any disability resulting from your injury. If disabled and claiming continuation of pay, you must submit medical evidence supporting your disability within 10 workdays. Your supervisor will complete their portion of the form, and it will be forwarded to your agency's eSafety or eComp reviewer. If your injury did not result in time lost from work or any medical expense, or if you only received first aid treatment, your CA-1 will be maintained in eSafety or eComp and may be reactivated if you incur lost time or medical expense at a later date. If your form was forwarded to the Office of Workers' Compensation, then you will receive a case file number in an email from eSafety or eComp.